Tonight's minority in parliament demands non-partisan probe into allegations of illegal trade of petroleum involving top government officials and national security operatives believed to have cost the nation $1.4 billion. Tonight we interrogate this issue, and then also the group is also demanding government apologizes to the Mahama administration over accusation it signed a bad deal with Ameri following the Attorney General's conclusion ruling out wrongdoing in the deal.
The NDC minority is calling on the government of Nanado and Baumia to swallow its pride and apologize to former President Mahama and the NDC for the unwarranted attacks they received from the MPP in the run-up to the 2016 general election.
We have details here on Top Story, brought to you by Bond Savings and Loans. Your success, our passion. Gassam Cement, the nation builder. Vodafone, the future is exciting, ready. And Nationwide Medical Health Insurance, your healthcare family. The minority in parliament is tonight demanding a non-partisan probe into allegations of illegal trade of petroleum products believed to have cost the nation 1.4 billion Ghana cedis through under-declaring of receipts. Revenue losses containing a report authored by the Ghana Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors identified nefarious actions or actors within the Ghana Revenue Authority, the presidency, and national security for the losses resulting from unabated smuggling, export dumping, and under-declaring of receipts. So the report further states that some players take advantage of a government policy that allows petroleum products to be exported to countries like Burkina Faso and Togo without slapping taxes on them. Now, ranking member on the Mines and Energy Committee, Adams Mutawakilu, tells Joy News the seriousness of the issue requires a non-partisan approach.
Assuming, how much will the special petroleum tax generate in a year? I don't think it will be up to 1.88 billion Ghana cedis. I don't think so. So there's more that is being leaked out. And when it is being leaked out, the people, the three agencies that were accused, that had been accused by bulk, Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors are the Presidency, GRA, Ghana Revenue Authority, and National Security, said that when these people are arrested, they are made to go scot-free. They are made to go scot-free. And that tells you that this government is not interested in fighting corruption. And since this government came, you realize that several corruption the presidency is mentioned. One, payment of $20,000 to see the president. It's at the Flagstaff House, or they call it Jubilee House now. Then we thought that that was the end. Before we realized GPS, $2.5 million, Baumia's name everywhere, another scandal. We thought that is the end. Before we realized, Nyantechi, a nice video, president name mentioned $5 million for president, $3 million for Baumia, and $1 million for chief of staff. That is not the end. The president name is used, sit by the president, and you pay $100 million. I think the frequency at which the presidency and the president name is being mentioned in these scandals is getting worrying. And if you don't take time, the seat of government will become the center of corruption in this country.
So this independent investigation, you want Parliament to lead it, or it should be outside the purview of Parliament?
I believe that Parliament leading it, because of majority-minority ratio, will not bring out. But we need people who are independent, who are not politically inclined, who have credibility, and who has in-depth knowledge in the oil and gas industry to do it.
So you have the ranking member on the Mines and Energy Committee, Adams Mutawakilu. The minority is also making other demands regarding the Ameri deal. We'll get into that shortly, but we've been joined on the phone by a member of the Mines and Energy Committee and a former Deputy Power Minister, John Jinapor. Thank you very much for your time here on Top Story. So first, to start with, is this the very first time that this illegal trade has come to your attention, knowing that you've been at the Power Ministry for some time? But have you ever heard about such an illegal trade before?
Thank you very much. You would agree with me that as we continue the democratic process, every now and then we are likely to have some issues. And so in the past, there were some isolated incidents, but it would appear that the situation is exacerbating and is getting out of hand. Because if the nation is losing close to 1.88 billion, that is about 2 billion cedis, it tells you that we are losing a colossal amount of money through this illegal activity. And it gives cause for worry. And all well-meaning Ghanaians ought to be worried about this development. Indeed, this amount translates to about the whole amount that we got from all our oil resources for 2017. And so it's a major, major problem. Whilst you are exporting oil and thinking that you are making some money, on the flip side of it, you are losing about that same amount through illegal activities.
But from your understanding, how do they operate? From what you've been digging and finding out, how is it done? How is it undertaking?
The major part has to do with smuggling. In fact, from the report, we are losing about 1.4 billion through smuggling. And smuggling is simply bringing in goods without declaring them, under declaring, and all those illegal issues. And so, one, we are not even able to capture what actually comes in as a country in terms of refined products or finished products. Two, we are not able to tax them. And then people bring products in as if they are exporting them to neighboring countries, only to find their way into our tanks. And so clearly, you would realize that that's a major, major issue for us. And for people at the presidency, at the tax authorities level, and at the governance level, deeply involved in such a major scandal, it means that this country faces a very, very great challenge and a major problem.
But could this be done, knowing that persons within the national security operatives and the presidency, we are told, are being mentioned, though no names have come up yet? Would you think this will be done on the blind side of the president?
Well, I don't work with the president, but clearly the president swore an oath to defend the Constitution and to do what is right and good. And so if the president sits for a whole year for his name to be used for such illegal activities, that goes directly against the interests of the state. I think that the president ought to be held responsible, and the president must wake up. The president must sit up and begin to exercise his authority and demonstrate that he is indeed in charge of the affairs of this country. Because from what we are witnessing, every now and then the name of the president is being used for all kinds of illegal activities, for all kinds of projects here and there, and it's very worrying. And so if the president is in slumber, I think that the president must wake up from his slumber and begin to take concrete, decisive action. And if you read the energy sector levy report of 2017 under Act 899, it clearly tells you that the minister himself, under the hand of the minister confirms that an amount of about 3.7 billion was projected to be collected. This was revised downwards to 3.4 billion. And even with that, they collected only 3.1 billion. And so from the minister's own report, not even from the Chamber of Petroleum Producers and Exporters, we are talking of the minister's own report. 300 million cedis was lost through unaccounted means. And so clearly, there's a major, major problem that all of us ought to grapple with and deal with going forward.
So you are looking at a concrete, decisive action from the presidency. What are your expectations exactly?
I think the only person who can resolve this problem is the president. Because if your top officials are compromised, if national security operatives are compromised, because this is a national security issue. When there's smuggling, the first point that ought to arrest this ought to do with the national security apparatus. But if the national security apparatus, as the report indicates, are compromised, if the tax authorities themselves, the Ghana Revenue Authority, are compromised, if top government officials intervene only for people who have been apprehended and accosted and arrested to be released, it tells you that the entire system is virtually broken. And this is the time we expect the president to demonstrate leadership. This is the time the president must demonstrate that he is indeed in charge of this country, that indeed he swore an oath to defend the Constitution and to serve the interests of this country. And this must be done immediately, because we cannot be losing close to 2 billion cedis on this end, whilst you are taxing people with unnecessary special petroleum levy just because you want to raise revenue. This is a huge leaking basket that all of us must help to deal with.
Well, leaking basket, which most people would say did not start now. At least you were in power as well. This was happening. You actually, say that indeed it was happening, but not to the levels that we are seeing now. What was done back then?
First of all, I think that we are too much dependent on imported finished products. That is why, under a special arrangement, we brought in 2 million barrels from the 10 fields through BOST for TOR to refine. When you refine more of your products domestically, you are able to track that and you add value because there's addition of value through the entire value chain. But when you virtually import everything, one, it creates a problem. Two is that President Mahama was on top of his game. That is why this issue was at a barest minimum. President Mahama ensured that the right people were put in place. He received regular briefings and charged us as ministers to ensure that we live above reproach and live up to expectation. And it should appear that under the current administration, it is free for all. And so there's a crumble here and there. People are going off guard and doing things against the interests of the state. And I think that this is really, really worrying. And as a patriotic Ghanaian, I call on the president to demonstrate leadership.
John Jinapor, thank you very much for your time. He's a member of the Mines and Energy Committee. Let's also speak to the Executive Director of the Ghana Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Senor Hosi, also joining us on the line. Thank you very much for your time. So it's your report that actually highlighted these illegal trade. And you heard John Jinapor just so we clarify, he's mentioned what happened or what pertained within the administration in order to nip the situation in the bud. Entirely true? Hello, Senor.
Yes.
I don't know if you caught portions of John Jinapor's submission ending about what they did within their administration to ensure that this nefarious activity was actually nipped in the bud. And I was asking whether it was entirely true. Was that what was happening?
Quickly, not our view on the matter. I think that both governments are culpable in this matter. One, TOR, with the BOST arrangement that he referred to, was the largest exporter in 2016. And that's when we had the export dumping thriving. It hasn't got to do whether you are refining your products here. It actually has to do with the commitment of the entire political and spiritual apparatus to deal with the illegal trade. There has been abundant evidence for both the former government and the current government to take some action. Nobody has taken the real actions we need. Often than not, you have a regulator that's actually hanging in there, and that's what we see as industry persons. So I do agree with him that it's something that the president would definitely have to take on much more firmly, and that I fully subscribe to. And that has to be done now. And that's a call not just as a politician, but it's a call that every Ghanaian must definitely make, because it's real. It's a canker that's really destroying this country. It's a canker that is really setting us all aback and has to be dealt with.
So, Senator, this particular report we're talking about, is it just covering national security operatives and persons within the presidency under this administration, or it covers some persons also in the previous administration?
Look, and like I said, the thing about this report, it indicts everybody, including possibly my own membership. Okay, it indicts industry players. It also indicts the government officials, not just in the current one, but also in the former government. So we really have a real national problem that I think we should all sign up to resolve and deal with perpetrators. There are low-hanging fruits that you can deal with, and in the process you will find the barons in the game. You know, when you want to fight the drug trade, you don't just keep talking and pretend to be dealing with things. You deal with both peddlers and barons at the same time. There are peddlers you can deal with today, and there are also barons that are evident for you to deal with. I've not seen the political will on the part of any of the governments, whether it's MPP or the NDC, and that, for me, is the biggest disappointment as a Ghanaian.
But we heard from the minority in parliament earlier, Adam Mutawakilu, a ranking member of the Mines and Energy Committee, is actually demanding a non-partisan probe. You also, when you were in the studio somewhere last week, called for a form of a probe into this matter. What would be your ideal composition of a committee to probe this matter?
First of all, I think that I can't agree any further with Honorable Mutawakili. I think that's on point. I actually thought that your colleague had indicated to me that they had asked for a bipartisan. But if they say a non-partisan, then that's the perfect way to go. We definitely need to have auditors of international repute. Ernst & Young is in town. We have Ghanaian partners with real competence and track record. KPMG is an administrator of the ESLA, and they have an interest in the Energy Sector Levies Act as well. These are competent players. Legal brains that we know are more apolitical and more focused on substance, and industry players. And I have indicated to government 1,001 times my willingness to assist them through the entire process. Let's start dealing with the rot. It's not too difficult to start. You just have to want to do so. So yes, it's a great idea for us to go a non-partisan way because it's a national crisis. It will come back to haunt any government at any point in time.
Senor Hossi, we are grateful for your time. He's the Executive Director of the Ghana Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors. They put together that report. Let's get some answers or some reaction also from the Energy Ministry. And Head of Communications, Nana Damwa, joins us on the line. Nana Damwa, thank you very much for your time here on Top Story. This issue has come to light. It was actually the report was actually launched by the minister. But the question for many is, do you have the political will to deal with this issue? We've heard the minority call for a non-partisan probe, to which the Ghana Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors agree. But is there the will to deal with it?
Good evening, MFR. I'm not sure if you can hear me. Can you?
I can hear you, Nana Damwa.
Okay, thank you. Once again, good evening, and good evening to all your listeners. I do not think that the political will to battle this issue is in doubt. All across board, what has become evident is that this government is trying as much as possible to increase its sources of revenue without unnecessarily burdening the people of the Republic of Ghana. On the face of this particular crisis, you can be sure that somewhere September last year, about 15 tankers were arrested and have gone through the processes of auction to ensure that it serves as a deterrent. I have personally heard the CEO of NPA say that after the auctioning of these vehicles, we're going to go after the directors of these companies and, where possible, prosecute them. You would also be abreast with all the issues of vessels having been seized within the Tema Enclave who were engaged in fuel smuggling, among others. It would also interest you to know that the CEO of the National Petroleum Authority has gone as far as Burkina Faso and Mali to ensure that acts of diversion, among others, are kept. We have even gone to the extent of imposing a bond system so persons that come to lift fuel ostensibly to export, but rather end up dumping them on the local market, are now being saddled with the point of having to pay the taxes on these upfront. If and when you are able to prove that indeed you've been able to export the fuel as you said you will, then those monies are refunded you. Obviously, these measures are not all it will take. Mm-hmm. But along the measures of what we have been made to understand, this is organized crime. And organized crime takes a lot of time and effort to fight. But what you can clearly see is that there's a will and consistent effort aimed at eradicating this problem. Let's look at it from the angle of even the revenues alone. If indeed the figures that the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors is putting out there to 1.8 billion can do a lot for this country. Mm-hmm. Not for anything at all. The flagship program of this government, which is the free SHS, can be catered for from such lost revenues. So you can be very sure that this government is very, very willing, and the willpower is there. I am not sure that the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors and Senor Hensi himself will contravene the fact that the CEO of NPA and the current ministry in its setup is very willing to help him in this fight.
But this organized crime that we talk about, Nana, is being perpetrated by persons in high places. Some are the presidency, national security operatives. They are not so far from you. Immediately, in the immediate, what have you done?
I think that this is an issue that has now come up. The first time that we ran this interview, I heard Mr. Senor Hossi make that allegation. And I was also abreast of the fact that Mr. Hassan Tampuli said that he is not aware of these facts. And so if these names will be made available to us, we will act and deal with them. The point is, if indeed these are true, then we would ask all individuals to help this government, because we have shown the willpower. As I have just run you through a couple of examples of actions that have been taken to help stem this problem. If anybody knows anything that has not come to our notice or that we are not taking action on, would plead that in the interest of Ghana and in the interest of all of us, they come up with such information to enable us deal decisively with such individuals. We have no interest whatsoever in shielding anybody against the general good of the people of this country.
But the minority, for instance, are calling for a non-partisan probe. The bulk oil distributors agree. Is it something we'll ever see? Or will you would consider?
Well, I do not see any opposition whatsoever to that suggestion. We would have to look at it. The interest of this government and of the ministry in its current setup is ensuring that all revenues that are due the state are protected. It is also in ensuring that we meet the same standards that we as a people have agreed and set up for ourselves. So if indeed anything is there, we welcome all suggestions to help us deal with this matter.
And just before we let you off also, there's an away from this issue. I said earlier that the minority is demanding an apology from government over their married deal. You know why? Because after that committee was tasked by the Speaker of Parliament to investigate the allegations, we heard the Attorney General also warning the ministry to dismiss plans of terminating their married deal. Tonight, the minority are asking for an apology because they think that the AG's position vindicates their position that the deal was done in the interest of the nation. Is there an apology they will ever get?
May I ask a question? The AG's position according to who?
This is from the ranking member of the Mines and Energy Committee.
And he says that is the AG's position.
Is that not it, Nana Damwa?
No, I'm asking because it will be interesting to find out where he got that supposed AG position from.
The AG has not warned that the Energy Ministry should not, If it is as regards a certain document, that has been floated widely on social media, I'd want to draw your attention to something. A document that has been floated widely on social media was dispatched 3 weeks before the letter was ever written. Okay.
If you look at it, you'd realize that there's a dispatch stamp on it. The date on that dispatch stamp is 4th November 2017, and the actual letter was written on the 27th of November 2017. If you look at that on the face of it, first page, as to how that will be the basis of an entire minority's opinion, is very interesting for me. For the sake of the respect that I have for Parliament and leadership, I wouldn't want to comment any further on that. But I'm saying that if it is in regard to that particular document, they need to check their facts again and look at the documents they are trying to peddle again before they attempt to give it any credibility.
I will leave it here. Thank you very much for your time. That's the head of communications of the Energy Ministry. We can finally hear from Adams Mutawakilu on that demand for an apology from government.
This legal position has come to vindicate the position of the NDC, the F1 Mahama-led administration, and the minority in Parliament that the agreement was clean, and for that matter, there is no grounds for suspension and abrogation of the contract. It will be recalled that the MPP in opposition wrote on the back of deceit, lies, and propaganda to hoodwink the unsuspecting Ghanaians into believing that the F1 Mama-led administration engaged in a fraudulent transaction in respect to the Ameri agreement. After assuming office in February 2017, a 17-member committee was set up by the Minister of Energy to investigate the agreement. Over a year today, the minister has not officially accepted the report and published same for Ghanaians to appraise themselves with the findings of the committee. Furthermore to this, Honorable Katie Hammond filed an urgent motion requesting Parliament to rescind the decision it gave in approving the agreement between the government of Ghana and Ameri Energy on the grounds of gross misrepresentation. It is almost 10 months since this motion was referred to the Committee on Mines and Energy. The people of Ghana are patiently waiting for the outcome of the committee's investigation. The NDC minority is calling on the government of Nana Addo and Bawumia to swallow its pride and apologize to former President Mahama and the NDC for the unwarranted attacks they received from the NPP in the run-up to the 2016 general election. They must also apologize to Ghanaians for the deceit they perpetuated against them to solicit their votes. The legal advice from the Minister of Justice and Attorney General has once again proved that former President Mahama and his government took a very good decision in the wake of the energy challenges by entering into the BOOT agreement, that is the build, own, operate and transfer with Ameri Energy, which
So you have Adams Muta Wakilu demanding that apology from government over that Ameri deal. That's it for Top Story, brought to you by Bond Savings and Loans. Your success, our passion. Gasem Cement, the nation builder. Vodafone, the future is exciting, ready. And Nationwide Medical Health Insurance, your healthcare family. Still to come here on Newsnight in a bit.
With 2 days to go before the premiere of the controversial and now investigative documentary, details are emerging tonight about what GFA boss Kwesi Nyantakyi told police investigators when he was questioned over his fraudulent use of the name of President Akufo-Addo. We have exclusive details about payments he alleges were made to some past government officials, plus GJA this tonight accusing Kennedy Japan of working against the interest of the state. We'll tell you why.
A true beauty with brains. For 10 years, you have always been there for me, caring for my every business need. Your excellent service with a smile inspires me to succeed. I pray I never let you down. And kamekonswa feli akosombo down. My beauty in orange. What they mean number one? Charlie, how be my raps? It dawn, eh?
You need money. Activate your SIM and win today. Recharge your card. Send the Sika for Vodafone cash. Send a text. Make a call or browse the net. Forget your worry. Vodafone promotion here solid.
Do more with Vodafone and win cash prizes. 10 Ghana cedis every hour, 500 Ghana cedis every day, 5,000 Ghana cedis every week, and 50,000 Ghana cedis every month. A grand prize of 200,000 Ghana cedis could be yours. Just keep talking, texting, browsing, and using Vodafone Cash more. Kudipa. The future is exciting. Ready?
Hey, Yinchi. I noticed that all the national stadia in Ghana have lasted for decades.
Oh, yes. But do you also know that the concrete bridges are also decades old?
Yes.
Only one company in Ghana can give you that guarantee, and that is Gasem.
Cement that guarantees smooth finishing of plastering.
That is the Gasem Super Rapid 32.5R. If you want to have strong blocks for any form of construction, use Gasem Super Strong 42.5R. For your time-tested bridges like the Adome, multi-story buildings, highways like the motorway, then it is Gasem Extra 42.5.